The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Trade Council buzzed with activity as representatives from dozens of star systems gathered for the monthly session. The massive hall stretched upward like a cathedral, its walls lined with viewing screens showing distant worlds and bustling trade routes. At the center sat a circular table large enough to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes. Tom Rivers adjusted his simple black suit and checked his data pad one final time. As Earth's trade representative, he had prepared thoroughly for today's presentation. The proposal was straightforward: humanity requested mining rights in the neutral Kepler sector, offering fair compensation and advanced environmental protection protocols in return. Around the table, various alien species chatted in their native tongues. The insectoid Rickstar clicked their mandibles in animated discussion. The crystal-based lumens hummed in harmonic frequencies. Near the head of the table, the reptilian Veltheri delegation sat in rigid formation, their scales catching the overhead lights. Commander Zara of the Veltheri Empire commanded attention wherever she went. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, her emerald scales were polished to perfection, and golden armor adorned her shoulders and chest. Battle scars marked her arms like badges of honor, and her yellow eyes held the cold calculation of a predator. She had earned her position through countless military victories, crushing rebellions across 3 star systems. The council moderator, a peaceful sage named Kel, called the session to order. His voice carried the weight of centuries as he spoke in the universal tongue that all species had agreed to use for official proceedings. Today we address several trade proposals, Kel announced. First, we hear from the human delegation regarding mineral extraction rights in Kepler Sector 7. Tom stood slowly, gathering his materials. He had been part of these councils for 2 years now, always conducting himself with quiet professionalism. Unlike many species that favored grand gestures and dramatic presentations, Tom preferred simple facts and clear reasoning. Honored council members, Tom began, his voice steady and respectful. Earth's mining consortium requests permission to extract rare minerals from 3 uninhabited asteroids in Kepler Sector 7. We offer standard galactic compensation rates plus an additional 15% finder's fee to the Council's development fund. Several representatives nodded approvingly. The proposal was fair and straightforward, exactly what the Council preferred for such routine matters. Tom continued, our environmental impact studies show zero risk to nearby ecosystems. We've developed new extraction methods that leave the asteroid cores intact for future use by other species. Before Tom could finish his presentation, a sharp laugh echoed through the chamber. All heads turned toward the Veltheri delegation, where Commander Zara had risen from her seat. Environmental protection? Zara's voice dripped with amusement. From humans? This is rich entertainment. The chamber fell silent. Interrupting another representative's presentation violated basic council protocol, but Zara continued without regard for proper procedure. Honored Council, I question why we waste time listening to this primitive species, Zara declared, her yellow eyes fixed on Tom. Humans are barely capable of space travel, let alone responsible resource management. Tom remained standing, his expression calm but alert. Around the table, other representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Veltheri were known for their aggressive nature, but this level of open disrespect was unusual even for them. Moderator Kel raised one of his 4 arms. Commander Zara, please observe proper protocol. Representative Tom has the floor. Zara ignored the moderator entirely. Look at him, she gestured toward Tom with disdain. Soft skin, weak muscles, no natural weapons. Humans survived only because they hide behind technology they barely understand. They talk about mining rights while lacking the courage to take what they need by force. The Rickstar delegation clicked nervously. The peaceful lumens dimmed their natural glow in distress. Even the warlike Korthak seemed uncomfortable with Zara's aggressive tone. Tom waited patiently, his hands clasped behind his back. His data pad lay forgotten on the table as Zara's tirade continued. My ancestors conquered worlds when humans were still throwing rocks at each other, Zara sneered. The Velthari Empire spans 12 systems because we understand strength. We take what we deserve through superior military might. She moved closer to Tom, her towering frame casting a shadow over the human representative. Your species speaks of environmental protection because you lack the power to simply claim resources and defend them. You beg for scraps from superior civilizations. A few gasps echoed around the chamber. Several elder representatives had witnessed countless diplomatic incidents, but Zara's words pushed far beyond normal political rhetoric. Commander Zara, Kel's voice carried a warning tone. You will return to your seat and observe proper conduct. Zara laughed again, a harsh sound that echoed off the chamber walls. Or what? Will the human challenge me to combat? Will he demand satisfaction for the insults to his pathetic species? She leaned down until her face was level with Tom's. Your silence proves my point. Humans are cowards who hide behind diplomacy because they lack the spine for real conflict. You cannot even defend your own honor, let alone claim mining rights in contested space. The chamber had become completely silent except for the soft hum of environmental systems. Every species represented had different customs for dealing with insults, but most involved some form of retaliation or formal challenge. The Korthak settled disputes through ritual combat. The Rikstar engaged in complex legal arguments. Even the peaceful lumens would dim and brighten in specific patterns to express displeasure. Tom remained perfectly still, his blue eyes meeting Zara's yellow ones without flinching. His breathing stayed even and controlled, as if he were listening to a weather report rather than enduring personal attacks. Perhaps humans need a demonstration of real power, Zara continued, emboldened by Tom's silence. The Velthari Empire could easily claim those asteroids you want so badly. Our warships could take the entire Kepler sector within a week. She circled around Tom like a predator studying wounded prey. But we have no need for such minor resources. We leave the scraps for scavenger species like yours. Other Velthari delegates began to join their commander's laughter. The sound filled the chamber with cruel amusement, while representatives of other species watched in growing discomfort. Look how he stands there, one Velthari officer called out. No fire in his eyes, no challenge in his posture. Truly, humans are the most spineless creatures in the galaxy. Zara nodded approvingly at her subordinate's comment. Indeed. Perhaps we should recommend that the Council establish special protections for humans, like we do for other endangered species. They clearly cannot survive without constant assistance from their betters. The insults grew more personal and vicious. Zara questioned human intelligence, physical capabilities, and moral character. She suggested that Earth's entire civilization existed only because stronger species allowed it to continue. Each word was calculated to provoke anger, to force Tom into an emotional response that would give the Velthari grounds to escalate the situation. Throughout the verbal assault, Tom never moved. His expression remained neutral, almost peaceful. He didn't clench his fists or raise his voice. He didn't issue counter-threats or demand apologies. He simply listened, absorbing every word with the patience of someone accustomed to weathering storms. Other representatives began to whisper among themselves. The elderly sage delegation exchanged meaningful looks. A few of the younger species seemed confused by Tom's lack of response, interpreting his calm demeanor as weakness or fear. Have you nothing to say? Zara demanded, growing frustrated by Tom's silence. Will you not even attempt to defend your species' reputation? Or do you confirm everything I have said about human cowardice? Tom finally moved, but only to check his wrist chronometer. The simple gesture somehow made Zara's fury intensify. He checks the time, she announced to the chamber. Even now, he thinks only of escape. This is the creature that asks for mining rights in strategic territory. The verbal assault continued for several more minutes. Zara attacked human culture, questioning their art, philosophy, and scientific achievements. She suggested that other species had made mistakes by treating humans as equals rather than primitive subjects requiring guidance. Throughout it all, Tom maintained his composure. His breathing remained steady, his posture relaxed but alert. To some observers, he appeared almost meditative, as if he were somewhere else entirely. Finally, after nearly 20 minutes of continuous insults, Zara seemed to run out of creative ways to demean humanity. The chamber fell silent again, all attention focused on Tom's expected response. Slowly, deliberately, Tom reached for his data pad. He closed the device with a soft click and tucked it into his jacket pocket. Then he straightened his tie with careful precision. "Representative Tom." Moderator Kell spoke cautiously. "Do you wish to respond to Commander Zara's statements?" Tom looked around the chamber, his gaze touching briefly on each delegation. When his eyes met Zara's, there was no anger or hurt in them, only a strange kind of sadness. "No," Tom said quietly. "I do not." Without another word, Tom turned and walked toward the chamber exit. His footsteps echoed in the silence as he moved with unhurried dignity across the vast floor. He didn't look back or acknowledge the stunned expressions of other representatives. The chamber doors closed behind him with a soft whisper, leaving complete silence in his wake. For several seconds, nobody moved or spoke. Then the Velthari delegation erupted in triumphant laughter. "There!" Zara proclaimed, her voice filled with satisfaction. "The human runs away without even attempting to defend himself. I have proven beyond doubt that humans lack the courage for galactic politics." Her officers joined the celebration, praising their commander's dominance over the weak human representative. They spoke of Velthari's superiority and the natural order of strong species ruling over weak ones. But not everyone in the chamber shared their amusement. The Elder Sage delegation remained silent, their ancient faces marked with concern. The Rikstar clicked nervously among themselves, and the lumens had dimmed to their lowest possible brightness. One voice finally broke through the Velthari celebration. "That was unwise," said Elder Thane of the Sage delegation. His voice carried the weight of millennia, and even Zara paused to listen. "Unwise?" Zara scoffed. "I demonstrated the true nature of human weakness for all to see. How can truth be unwise?" Elder Thane's 4 eyes fixed on the Velthari commander with an expression that had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. "Young warrior, you have lived for less than 2 centuries. In my time, I have seen species make similar mistakes about humans. None of those species exist today." The chamber grew quiet again as other representatives considered the elder's words. Stories about human conflicts were rare but disturbing when they surfaced. Most species had limited contact with Earth's military, but rumors persisted of capabilities that didn't match humanity's peaceful diplomatic approach. Fairy tales, Zara dismissed with a wave of her clawed hand. Humans spread such stories to compensate for their obvious inadequacies. Today proved that they cannot even defend their own honor, let alone pose a threat to superior species. Elder Thane said nothing more, but his expression remained troubled as the council session continued without Earth's representative. Outside the chamber, Tom walked slowly through the station's corridors. His face remained calm, but anyone who looked closely might have noticed the slight tension in his shoulders or the way his hands remained perfectly still at his sides. He made his way to the communication center and sent a single, brief message to Earth. The transmission contained no emotional language or dramatic declarations, just a simple report of the day's events and a recommendation for further action. By the time the council session ended, word of the incident had begun spreading throughout the station. Different species interpreted events according to their own cultural frameworks. Some saw Tom's departure as shameful retreat. Others recognized it as remarkable self-control. But in the depths of space, aboard hidden monitoring stations and distant outposts, human observers noted the transmission and began implementing protocols that had been prepared long ago for exactly this type of situation. The Velthari celebration continued, unaware that their victory might prove more costly than any defeat they had ever suffered. 3 days passed after the incident at the Galactic Trade Council, and life across the galaxy continued as normal. Most species had already forgotten about the confrontation between Commander Zara and the human representative Tom. The Velthari Empire celebrated their perceived victory, while other civilizations focused on their usual concerns of trade, exploration, and territorial disputes. Dr. Kess of the Corvani Medical Institute was the first to notice something wrong. The Corvani were known throughout the galaxy for their advanced medical technology and healing abilities. Their hospitals served patients from dozens of species, offering treatments that were impossible anywhere else. Dr. Kess supervised the main surgical center on Corvan Prime, where the most complex operations took place. On the morning of the fourth day, Dr. Kess arrived at work to find chaos. The primary surgical suite was dark, its advanced life support systems completely offline. Emergency power had activated, but the sophisticated equipment remained dead. What happened here? Dr. Kess demanded of the night shift supervisor. We don't know, Nurse Vale replied, her tentacles writhing with stress. Everything shut down at exactly midnight Galactic Standard Time. The diagnostic systems won't even start. Dr. Kess moved quickly through the medical center, checking each department. The pattern was everywhere, any equipment that had been upgraded or modified in recent years was completely non-functional. Basic systems still worked, but the advanced technology that made Corvani medicine superior to all others had simply stopped. Call the technical support team, Dr. Kess ordered. We tried, Vale said quietly. The support contracts were all handled through human engineering firms. Their communication channels are completely silent. Meanwhile, across the galaxy in the Thraxian mining colonies, Supervisor Borg faced a similar crisis. The Thraxians were master miners, capable of extracting resources from the most hostile environments. Their deep space mining operations provided rare materials to half the known galaxy. The life support systems in Mine Shaft Alpha had been functioning perfectly for 3 years. The environmental controls maintained perfect atmospheric pressure, temperature, and air quality for workers operating 2 miles underground. The systems had been designed and installed by a human engineering company called Terra Solutions. Now those same systems were failing rapidly. The atmospheric processors are offline, Chief Engineer Rex reported to Supervisor Borg. Backup power is maintaining basic air circulation, but we're losing pressure on the lower levels. Borg studied the diagnostic displays with growing alarm. When did this start? All systems shut down simultaneously at midnight Galactic Time. We've tried everything, but the control software won't respond to any commands. Contact the original installers for emergency support. Rex's expression darkened. That's the problem, sir. Terra Solutions isn't answering any communications. Neither is any other human company we've tried to reach. Similar scenes played out across dozens of star systems. On the peaceful world of Luminos, the agricultural processing facilities that fed billions began experiencing mysterious malfunctions. The Lumens discovered that their food production had increased by 300% over the past decade, but only because human agricultural specialists had quietly redesigned their growing systems. The Rikstar Shipping Consortium faced navigation failures as their trade routes became increasingly unreliable. The complex calculations that allowed safe faster-than-light travel depended on mathematical models that human scientists had refined and improved. Without constant updates to account for stellar movements and gravitational changes, their ships risked catastrophic navigation errors. In the halls of power across the galaxy, emergency meetings began taking place as the pattern became clear. Every major civilization had become dependent on human technology, often without realizing it. The Galactic Trade Council reconvened in emergency session. Moderator Kell looked exhausted as he addressed the gathered representatives. Tom's seat remained empty, and efforts to contact Earth's diplomatic mission had failed completely. We face an unprecedented situation, Kell announced. All human personnel have withdrawn from their positions across the galaxy. Their companies have ceased all operations. Their technology support has ended without explanation. Commander Zara sat rigid in her chair as the full scope of the crisis became apparent. The Velfari Empire was not immune to the problems affecting other species. Admiral Voss of the Velfari fleet approached Zara during a break in the session. His scales had lost their usual luster, and stress lines marked his face. "Commander, we need to discuss the fleet status," Admiral Voss said quietly. "What about it?" Zara demanded, though she already suspected the answer. "Our targeting systems have become unreliable. The weapon's accuracy has dropped by 60%, and our tactical computers keep providing incorrect firing solutions." Zara felt her confidence begin to crumble. "How is that possible? Our technology is purely Velfari design." "That's what we thought," Admiral Voss replied. "But our investigation revealed that human contractors upgraded our targeting algorithms 2 years ago. They claimed it was just routine optimization, but apparently those upgrades are essential for proper function." The news got worse throughout the day. Food production facilities across the Velfari Empire were failing as automated systems stopped working. The agricultural worlds that fed the military had been quietly enhanced with human biotechnology that increased crop yields while reducing resource consumption. Transportation networks began experiencing cascading failures. Shipping schedules that had run perfectly for years suddenly became chaotic as logistics software failed. The complex coordination required to move goods between star systems had been managed by AI systems that human programmers had designed and maintained. Elder Thane of the Sage delegation called for a private meeting with the remaining council members. His ancient wisdom had guided galactic politics for longer than most civilizations had existed. "We must understand what we are facing," Elder Thane said gravely. "This is not random system failure. This is coordinated withdrawal." "You're suggesting humans planned this?" asked Representative Quinn of the Rikstar. "I am certain of it," Elder Thane replied. "Humans have been quietly integrating their technology into our civilizations for decades. We accepted their improvements because they worked so well and asked for so little in return. The truth was becoming clear to those who looked carefully. Humans had never demanded territory or tribute. They had simply offered better solutions to existing problems. More efficient engines, improved communication systems, enhanced medical equipment, optimized agricultural processes. Each advancement had been presented as a minor upgrade, hardly worth noticing. Now the galaxy was learning how much they had come to depend on those minor upgrades. On Corvin Prime, Dr. Kess faced impossible choices. Patients who needed advanced surgery would die without the human-designed life support systems. The medical equipment that had saved thousands of lives was now nothing more than expensive decoration. "How long can we maintain basic operations?" Dr. Kess asked the hospital administrator. "Perhaps a week with emergency protocols," came the grim reply. "After that, we'll have to transfer critical patients to facilities with older technology." The problem is, most other hospitals upgraded their systems too. Similar conversations were happening across every major civilization. The Thraxian miners had to evacuate the deep shafts as life support became unreliable. The Lumen agricultural worlds faced potential famine as food processing shut down. The Rikstar discovered that 40% of their trade routes depended on human navigation assistance. Commander Zara found herself in an increasingly desperate position. As reports flowed in from across the Velfari Empire, the scope of their dependence on human technology became undeniable. "How did this happen without our knowledge?" she demanded of her intelligence staff. Colonel Hark, her chief of intelligence, looked deeply uncomfortable. "The humans were remarkably subtle, Commander. They never took credit for major innovations. They positioned themselves as minor consultants and support technicians. Support technicians don't have this kind of power." "That's exactly what made them so effective," Colonel Hark explained. "They worked behind the scenes, improving systems gradually. Each change seemed insignificant by itself, but together they transformed our capabilities." Zara realized with growing horror that her empire's military might was crumbling. Their advanced warships couldn't fight effectively without human-enhanced targeting systems. Their logistics networks couldn't supply troops without human-designed coordination software. Their communications relied on human-maintained networks that were now going dark across the galaxy. The economic impact was even more severe. Trade between star systems began grinding to a halt as shipping companies lost their ability to calculate safe routes and delivery schedules. Financial markets crashed as trading algorithms failed. Manufacturing slowed as automated systems required maintenance that only human technicians understood. On the fifth day, Representative Quinn of the Rikstar managed to establish communication with a remote human outpost. The conversation was brief and frustrating. "We need technical support," Quinn explained to the human coordinator. "Our shipping networks are failing." "I'm sorry, but we're no longer providing external technical support," the human replied politely. "We've withdrawn from all galactic assistance programs. But people will die without medical equipment. Entire populations face starvation." "That's regrettable," the human said with genuine sadness. "We hope other species can find alternative solutions." "What will it take for you to resume support services?" "I'm not authorized to discuss that." "You might try contacting our diplomatic mission." "Your diplomatic mission isn't responding to communications." "No, they wouldn't be," the human confirmed. "Have a good day." The conversation ended, leaving Quinn staring at a blank screen in frustrated confusion. By the sixth day, panic had spread throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Trade Council met in continuous emergency session, but they had no power to force human cooperation. Every attempt at communication was met with polite but firm refusal. Commander Zara finally swallowed her pride and tried to contact Tom directly. She had obtained his personal communication code through intelligence channels, hoping to negotiate some kind of arrangement. The call connected, and Tom's face appeared on her screen. He looked exactly the same as he had in the council chamber, calm, professional, and completely untroubled. "Commander Zara," Tom said with a slight nod. "How may I help you?" "Our empire is facing critical system failures," Zara said, trying to keep desperation out of her voice. "We need immediate technical assistance." "I'm sorry to hear about your difficulties," Tom replied sincerely. "Unfortunately, Earth has suspended all external technical support operations." "Why? What do you want? Money? Territory? Trade agreements?" Tom's expression remained perfectly neutral. "We don't want anything, Commander. We've simply decided to focus our resources on internal development." "But civilizations are collapsing. People are dying." "Yes," Tom agreed sadly. "That is unfortunate. We hope other species can find solutions to these challenges." Zara struggled to understand his response. "You're just going to watch the galaxy fall apart?" "We're not watching anything," Tom corrected gently. "We've withdrawn from galactic affairs entirely. What happens in the broader galaxy is no longer our concern." "This is because of what I said at the council, isn't it?" Zara demanded. "You're punishing us for my words." Tom considered her statement carefully. "Commander, you questioned humanity's worth and suggested we lacked the courage for galactic politics. We've decided to demonstrate our value through absence rather than conflict." "I was wrong," Zara admitted, her pride finally cracking. "I see now how much we depend on human innovation. Please, we need your help." "Your recognition of our contributions is appreciated," Tom said. However, the decision to withdraw was made collectively by Earth's leadership. It cannot be reversed based on individual apologies. "What will it take?" Zara pleaded. "Name your price." Tom's expression grew even sadder. "There is no price, Commander. We've learned that the galaxy views us as weak and dispensable. We've chosen to accept that assessment and remove ourselves from situations where we're not wanted." Before Zara could respond, Tom continued. "The Velthari Empire questioned our worth to galactic civilization. We've chosen to let you determine our value through our absence. We hope you find the experience educational." The communication ended, leaving Zara staring at her own reflection in the dark screen. By the seventh day, the scope of the crisis had become impossible to ignore. The galactic economy was in free fall. Medical systems were failing across dozens of worlds. Food production was collapsing. Transportation networks were breaking down. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy were discovering that their advancement had been built on human innovation that they had barely noticed or acknowledged. Elder Thane called a final emergency session of the Trade Council. The ancient sage looked tired in a way that spoke of deep wisdom rather than physical exhaustion. "We have made a grave error," he announced to the assembled representatives. "We treated humanity as a minor species when they were actually the foundation holding our civilization together." The chamber was filled with delegates whose worlds were falling apart. Commander Zara sat silent and defeated, her empire's mighty fleet reduced to ineffective scrap metal floating in space. "What can we do?" asked Representative Quinn. "They won't negotiate. They won't discuss terms. They've simply vanished." Elder Thane looked around the chamber with eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall across the millennia. "We can learn from this experience. We can rebuild our technology independently. And we can hope that eventually, humanity might consider returning to galactic society." "How long will that take?" demanded a desperate delegate. "Perhaps decades. Perhaps centuries," Elder Thane replied. "Or perhaps never. Humans have shown us that they never needed us. The question now is whether we can survive without them." The session ended in grim silence as representatives returned to their dying civilizations, finally understanding the true cost of disrespecting those who had quietly held their galaxy together. In the depths of space, human ships continued their quiet exodus, leaving behind a galaxy that had learned too late the difference between strength that demanded recognition and power that required none.